think we could probably get started, and just so that everyone knows, this meeting is being recorded and will be available. The recording will be made available at a later date. So, John, you're muted, John.
Thank you, Tracy. Good evening, everyone. My name is John Mayer. I'm the senior planner with the City of Monrovia, and this is a scoping meeting. This is a meeting that's open to the public, and it's an opportunity for the public to provide input on the project at 701 South Myrtle Avenue. And just to summarize the project, this Blake Griggs Properties is proposing a specific plan for the construction of a mixed-use residential commercial development at the southwest corner of South Myrtle and West Olive Avenues. The proposed 5-story structure will include 200 apartment units, 5,143 square feet of non-residential ground floor space, and a 3-level, 2 underground, 312 space parking garage on a 1.6 acre site. 17 of the apartment units will be designated affordable for low-income households. Now, at this time, the City of Monrovia is coordinating the California Environmental Quality Act, and this is a very comprehensive review process where the city works with a planning consultant who will study all of the environmental issues associated with this project. And eventually, a draft environmental impact report will be prepared, and it will contain all of the public comments that we're going to receive today and throughout this scoping period to make sure those public concerns are addressed. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Tracy Zinn of T&B Planning. She is leading the team of experts who are going to study all of the environmental issues with this project. And then at the end, we'll open it up for comments and questions. Thank you, Tracy.
Okay, thanks. So just to introduce myself, my name is Tracy Zinn. I'm a principal with the firm T&B Planning. I have 31 years of experience preparing environmental analysis and compliance. Sorry, I'm letting a few more. Environmental analysis and compliance under the California Environmental Quality Act. I'm going to just overview what we're going to talk about this evening. As I mentioned at the end of the presentation, which will only take about 15 or 20 minutes, we will open it up to receive any public comment. The purpose of this meeting is to describe the proposed projects so that you understand what the applicant is proposing for the property, provide information on the California Environmental Quality Act and the Environmental Impact Report preparation process. And the main purpose of the meeting is to receive your comments, questions, or environmental concerns. There'll be other opportunities to discuss the merits of the project with the city or the applicant at future public meetings. But the purpose of the meeting tonight is to stay focused on the potential environmental impacts associated with the project. So we're looking for comments, and you should think about as you're listening to the presentation, what are your environmental concerns? What should the city be considering when embarking on an environmental analysis for this project? And are there any alternatives to the project or mitigation measures that you would like the city to consider in their evaluation? We'll also review next steps and additional opportunities for public engagement in the California Environmental Quality Act review process. So where's the project located? So the project is located in the city of Monrovia, approximately 1 mile north of the 210. Specifically, the site is 1.6 acres. It is located west of Olive Avenue. I'm sorry, it abuts West Olive Avenue to the north, South Myrtle Avenue to the east, an alley to the south, and a developed property to the west. This is an aerial photograph of what exists on the project site today. The applicant would be proposing demolition of all of the existing site improvements to build their proposed project. Applications that the applicant has submitted to the city of Monrovia for consideration include a general plan amendment, a zone change, a specific plan, a tentative parcel map, and a conditional use permit. I'm going to describe the physical characteristics of the project that are proposed and these entitlement applications in a little bit of detail. At the end of the presentation, you're welcome to ask any additional questions about the project or what's proposed for development. This exhibit shows the podium, the proposed podium of the building. So the building is proposed to be 5 stories tall. As was mentioned at the beginning, the proposal is for a mixed-use 5-story building. The building is proposed to include 200 multifamily apartment units, 5,143 square feet of commercial space, fitness center space, an additional approximately 2,400 square feet of leasing office space, the lobby, the mailroom, other common areas that you would typically find in an apartment building. Of the 200 units, as mentioned, 17 of those units will be affordable for low-income households. The unit sizes are proposed to vary from approximately 596 square feet, which would be a studio unit, up to over 1,000 square feet, which would be 2-bedroom units. Vehicular access would be provided by one driveway connection at Olive Avenue in this location. Some other amenities is there will be some private common areas inside the building, a couple of courtyards, a pool area. On the west side, there will be a dog run. There will be a public plaza at the corner of Myrtle Avenue and Olive.
This is a weird Zoom meeting.
Let me pick up participants at this time, and we'll take questions at the end. The architecture of the building is evolving, but currently this is the architecture that is on file with the city. Just flipping back to the prior slide, you'll see the building's proposed in an upside down M shape. So when you're looking at the architecture, and this is architecture as seen from Olive Avenue, some of these components of the building are not right up against the street. They're pushed back. Again, there's the M shape of the building, and here's what it's proposed to look like. I do understand that the applicant is working on modifications to the architectural design on the outside, but this is what is currently on file. So from Olive Avenue, you'll see here there is one vehicular entrance to the parking. There will be 1.5 levels of subterranean parking. The city's already received a couple of questions about the parking, so I'm going to just go into that in a little bit of detail. There are 256 parking spaces proposed inside the building. 324 total parking spaces. Of those, 256 spaces will be dedicated to residents. All the residents will have assigned spaces. There'll be 50 spaces for guests, 6 spaces for the leasing office, and 6 spaces for the ground floor commercial uses. In addition, there'll be 6 additional spaces in the alley that will be unassigned. The alley area could also be used for moving trucks, temporary parking for unloading of packages and things like that. That would be the alley to the south. This slide shows a few architectural renderings that were submitted by the applicant so that you can see some of the building materials that are proposed, variety of different building materials, colors, some variation of the architecture along the roof. Proposing a general plan amendment. The 1.6 acre property is currently designated as office, research and development, and light manufacturing. The application proposes to redesignate the site to planned development. And you can see the outline of the property here in blue. Similarly, there's an application on file for a change of zone. The current zoning of the property is office, research and development, and light manufacturing. And the proposal is to change the zoning designation to specific plan. The specific plan will allow tailored zoning specifications for the property on setbacks and building height and things like that. The building height is proposed at 65 feet. I'm going to now go into detail about the California Environmental Quality Act and the analysis that the city is going to be conducting for the project in accordance with state law. An environmental impact report is an informational document that will inform the public and decision-making bodies at the city about the physical environmental impacts of the project. It will be an informational document that will disclose ways that any environmental impacts or adverse impacts to the environment can be mitigated to lessen impacts. If there are impacts that are determined to be significant according to the city's criteria, the city will be required to impose mitigation measures or conditions of approval on the project to minimize its impacts on the environment to the most feasible extent. The city would also be required, if there are significant impacts to the environment, to consider alternatives to the project. It could be alternatives in the project's design, the project's operation, the project's location even, so that environmental impacts can be lessened. And the environmental impacts of the project will be one of many factors the city's decision-making bodies will consider when they deliberate on whether to approve the project or not. This project will be considered by both the city's planning commission for recommendation to the city council. The city council would be the ultimate decision-making authority for the project. My role as the CEQA compliance consultant is to oversee the preparation of many technical documents that will analyze the project's impact on the environment, objectively analyze the project's impact on the environment, and suggest mitigation measures that the city should consider. My job is not to advocate for the project. I'm completely serving an objective role to present information about the project's environmental effects. When the environmental impact report is released to the public, it's required to reflect the independent judgment of the city and the city staff. So city will be reviewing the environmental impact report and approving it before it is released for public review. This shows the California Environmental Quality Act and EIR process. We're at the very beginning of the analysis project. So as a first step in CEQA compliance, the city is obligated to conduct scoping, which is what we're doing this evening, soliciting public input on what the city should consider in its analysis of the project's environmental impacts. This process has been going on for 30 days. It will end tomorrow. So if after this evening you have any written comments you would like to supply to the city at the end of the presentation, we'll provide a mailing address and an email address where you can send in additional comments. But any comments you give this evening will be treated just as if it were a written comment. After this evening, we will be preparing the environmental impact report. That will take several months. When the environmental impact report is ready for public review, it will be released for 45 days. So everyone will have 45 days or a month and a half to review the environmental impact report and submit any comments you would like to submit on the analysis to the city. The city will be obligated to respond to all of the environmental related comments in writing and publish a final EIR. So it won't be until the final EIR with the written responses to comments are available that the project will be brought forward to the city council or to the planning commission for consideration and then ultimately to the city council. So there'll be additional opportunities for public review. Again, here's the steps in the process. We're only on step 2 at this point. Again, this is the scoping meeting. The city will be releasing a draft EIR for 45 days of public comment, responding to those comments, releasing a final EIR, and then taking the project forward to public hearing. So there's quite a ways to go yet process before the city council will deliberate on the project. The city did make some preliminary determinations on the topics that will be evaluated in the environmental impact report. They're listed here in alphabetical order. But because some of the participants this evening are only on phone and can't see the screen, I will read them. So the city will be evaluating the project's impacts on aesthetics. So that's visual quality, light and glare, air quality, cultural resources. So that covers historic resources and archaeology, energy consumption, geology and soils, greenhouse gas emissions, hazards and hazardous materials, land use and planning, noise, which would include both construction noise and operational noise, population and housing, public services. So those are things like police protection, fire protection, other services that are provided by the city to a mixed use project like the one that's proposed, recreation, transportation, tribal cultural resources, and utilities and service systems. So things like water service, sewer service, storm drain, dry utilities, etc. So at this part of the meeting, we are going to open it up for questions from you regarding the project that's proposed. But bear in mind that we are looking primarily this evening for comments on things that you would like the city to consider and its environmental evaluation of the project. Again, there's going to be other opportunities and meetings that the city and the applicant will be hosting to go over the merits of the project. So if you could please try to focus your comments tonight on environmental related comments. And if you would like to make a comment, you can either raise your hand. There should be a little hand at the top of the screen, or you can which we will read. Or if you don't have access to any of those, at the end, we will unmute all microphones and you could just speak up. If you are planning to give a comment, we would appreciate you giving your name so that we can record everyone's comment and who's making what comments. If someone's already made a comment, you're welcome to repeat it. But once a comment is made, it will be considered and comments don't need to be repeated. If you would like to submit written comments after this evening, you would submit them by email to planning@ci.monrovia.ca.us. The email address is on the screen, or in writing by letter US mail to the city, and the city address is shown on the screen. So at this time, I think I'm just going to back up to put the proposed project image up. And if you would like to make a comment, just raise your hand above, or you can type a comment into the chat bar. I don't see anyone doing that, so, oh, there we go. All right, Jim, you're first. Hold on a second, let me unmute you. Okay. I'm trying to unmute you. Unmute. Give me 1 minute. We should be able to hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
You mentioned that there will be 256 parking spaces underground for residents for 200 units. It would seem that you're going to have more cars than 256 cars for those units. Has any consideration been made about where all those other cars might park, given the parking situation that we have in town, which is a lack of parking?
I've recorded your comment. The city is welcome to answer any comments if they'd like. Again, the purpose of the meeting is to take the comments. We're not going to have answers to all of the questions this evening, but in the transportation section of the EIR, we will be analyzing transportation and parking and adequacy of parking. Parking overflow could also be analyzed as an environmental effect in the transportation section of the EIR. My understanding is that the project is just currently designed to comply with city parking requirements. John, did you have anything to add?
Thank you. Yeah, there are 318 parking spaces in the project. I'm not sure if that was clear.
And also this project is subject, they're asking for a density bonus, so they're subject to the requirements in the density bonus, state density bonus law too, which limits our ability. But parking is something that we have definitely been having multiple conversations with the applicant on, and it will be studied as part of the parking demand will be studied as part of the environmental review.
Jim, did you have any other questions?
Yes, I did. Given that this structure is going to be so close to our historic downtown, I don't know if this is something that the environmental impact report will explore, but I'm concerned about the impact that it would have on our downtown area.
And when you said concern about downtown area, are you specifically referring to the physical character of the existing area?
Its character, yes, but also its use. That has been a historic downtown, that stretch from Palm to Olive, since the town was founded in 1886. So it's something that the residents of the community value highly. And it just seems that it should be looked at as how this project and the other one that will be next door will impact that downtown area.
Okay, I understand. Okay, before moving on to the next person, did you have anything else, Jim?
That's all for now. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, is there Edie? Don't know. Oh, there you
Okay.
are. You're back. There you
Okay.
are.
There I am. The 6 parking spaces that you have in the alley that are unassigned, are those on a time limit? Can the public use them for an unlimited amount of time?
I don't have that answer. I'm not sure the project is far enough in its city review to have that determined. So I'm not sure.
Okay. Then the public plaza, the one that you stated is on Olive and Myrtle, is that going to be for the general public? also to use, or is that just for the public, meaning the residents only of this project?
So the plaza you're seeing on the corner, it's an outdoor plaza and it will not have any access restrictions. So it will be available for general public use.
Okay. And then there's 17 out of the 300, what did you say, 320? Okay, out of all the units, you said there's only 17 low income, only 17? Is there a way that we are able to get that number increased?
So I am taking those comments. So for purposes of environmental analysis, we're required to analyze the project that the applicant is currently proposing. And the project that's currently proposed and on file with the city is for includes 17 units. So that's what we will be analyzing. There will be other opportunities in meetings with the city or the applicant to talk about the merits of the project. So for my role and for purposes of tonight and environmental scoping, we're scoping the environmental analysis on the project that's proposed, and the project is proposing 17 units currently. But we've taken your comment and we'll pass that comment along to the applicant.
One more question. Is there any plans for any senior housing in this complex?
The current project does not propose any age restriction.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Next up is Jamie Carrillo. If you can unmute yourself and then ask your question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi. My question is in regards to the noise. On Primrose, between Olive and Colorado all the way to Foothill, there's a lot of trucks, like the delivery trucks, the big rigs that go by. My question is, how are they going to reroute those trucks to other larger streets? The reason why I ask is if you're building 200 something units, the traffic congestion that's going to create in that area, it's going to be pretty extensive, especially on Fridays for the farmers market. That's one. And also another thing to take in consideration is Athens services, their pickup days. That I feel is going to impact all the properties in the area as far as like the noise.
Okay. Those are good comments. So let me just ask a few clarifying questions. So the
Yes.
trucks you mentioned that are on Primrose, what's the origin or destination of those vehicles? Do you know?
The big trucks, the big rigs, they go on delivery days every
Are
day.
they just going through, or are they stopping at one of the adjacent
They have
businesses?
to make stops. Well, they don't stop in those areas, but they do have to go through the stop signs. And it
Okay.
creates a lot of traffic because if you have a big rig and another big rig behind it.
Okay. So as part of the there will be a traffic study prepared for this project. And as part of that traffic study, there will be traffic counts taken, and the traffic counts will break down the passenger vehicle traffic from the truck traffic. So we will have counts that we will be using as a baseline condition for evaluation. So
Got
thank you
it.
for
And
pointing that out. We'll make sure
Of
we pay
course.
special attention to that area.
Thank you. And also the not only the traffic, but the noise increase that it's going to create.
I understand. Thank you.
Those were only my comments to take in consideration because even though they may seem small, they're actually pretty big. I live in the area, so I know how the noise level is. And with so many properties being added, there's going to add, like someone mentioned earlier, you have 200 something parking spaces. But if you add, it's not one person living in one apartment. It's going to leave 2 or 3 people living in one apartment. So you're taking in consideration 3 vehicles at the very least per apartment.
Okay, I understand. And we'll make sure that that is studied under the noise section as well as the transportation section.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we'll move on to Stephen Lord. If you could unmute yourself, please.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I had several questions. I serve a stakeholder in the sense that we own a unit on Colorado Commons, which is an apartment complex just to the north. And I note there's another apartment complex just to the north, Oak Park, existing Oak Park apartments. And there's a great south view of the sun and the town from these apartments. And I think this structure, when it goes up, is going to be taller. That's basically my question. Is it going to be taller than the apartment buildings to the north and thereby block the view to the south, which is, the sunset and all that? So that's one question. I don't know if you want me to pause and before my next question.
I don't know the exact height of the surrounding buildings, but we can disclose that information in the documentation for comparison purposes.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your excellent presentation. Can I ask, I was unclear on what the land use of this footprint is to the west of the structure that's being built between the structure and Primrose. That it had an M. I wasn't quite sure what is to the west between the new apartments and Primrose to be proposed.
There's it's like a light industrial office type of building.
Okay, so a building.
Can you see the screen? It's this.
I-
You're referring to this here.
Yes, will that be demolished and a new building put up, or that continues
No.
to be what's there?
That will be retained.
Okay, thank you. And another similar question is, what's on the site there will be demolished and this new structure will go up. What is it that will be demolished that exists, and does that mean people are having to move out of a habitation?
Yeah, no, there's no residential on the property today. It's the Myrtle and Olive Business Park.
Okay. And I just one last it's envisioned that, well, first of all, I hope there's a wall between the swimming pool and Olive Street. It looked on your diagram like there's a large pool, but it didn't look like there's a barrier between the two. But I'm sort of wondering if the idea behind, you say commercial space will be available. Does that mean that we would expect storefronts, commercial storefronts, to be in part of this venture?
There is, so I'll answer a couple of questions regarding the pool. The pool is proposed on the podium level, not the ground level. So it will be elevated above the street level. And if you look on the architecture, there is an architectural feature that's going to serve as a visual barrier between the pool and the street. But the pool's, can you see my cursor? The pool's basically up here. It's
Yes,
not at the ground. It's not at the ground level.
That's very comforting.
Okay. And then at the ground level, there'll be a mixture of residential, doors that will be on the street, as well as the entry to the parking garage, the fitness center, the public plaza. And then, yes, there will be street access to a minor amount of commercial space, approximately 5,000 square feet. There's no tenants proposed for the commercial space right now. It could be food service, drop off, dry cleaning, community-based type of commercial uses, but there's no specific tenant or use. It could be a donut shop, anything that would be permitted by zoning.
This is my last comment. It's very reminiscent of the Paragon down Colorado Boulevard. I'm sorry, down Myrtle Ave to the south, with commercial spaces in their front of their apartment complex. Is this the same builder that's doing the Paragon, that did the Paragon, or is this another entity?
For this project is Blake Crick's Properties.
I'm sorry.
It's a different applicant.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we'll move on to Peter. You can unmute your microphone.
Yes, I think I'm on.
Yes, you are.
My concern is what will happen in the environment in Old Town if we're to add another like 100 dogs to the street. There are a lot already, and some of the plantings tend to get foul. And just to look into that might be good. I'm in another apartment building, and there are a billion dogs here as well. And just doubling or tripling the amount of pets, not that I don't like them, but you get that.
Mhm.
So that was one question. The other question is about general light pollution. The building that's there now has a lot of their lights pointed up. For what reason, I don't know, but are they going to look into general light pollution, environmental things as well?
And yes, the aesthetic section of the EIR does have an analysis portion on light and glare. So light will be analyzed.
Okay. And dogs?
I personally haven't done an in-depth analysis of domestic animal occupation of multifamily buildings before, but that's not to say that we can't look into it and just at least for disclosure purposes.
Right, just an idea, and it may just take better enforcement in the long run, but that's all. There are my two concerns, and thank you for addressing them.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Jamie again. Jamie Curlow, did you have another question?
No, I'm sorry. I just didn't put it down. No, I don't have another question. Sorry.
That's okay. Okay. And I'll just read a question that's in the chat. So there's a question: the trees on Olive Avenue in the overview are not spaced at the same interval as the mature trees. Will the existing pine tree be preserved? I don't know, but I'll look into that and we'll disclose that. If the city knows, you're happy to answer. And then the second question was: the north side of the project is along Olive Avenue, where with the grade being north to south, the location would make it ideal for curb cuts and tree wells to keep stormwater local. Thank you for that comment. The roof is not depicted in the diagram. Has the use of a green roof been considered to help fulfill the LID requirement? I'm not aware that any green features are proposed on the roof at this time. But I know that there are some amenities proposed on the roof, including a roof deck, but we will take a look at the roof design. Thank you for those comments. So those are all, I think I called on everyone with a hand raised. Does anyone have any other comments regarding the project's environmental analysis or any questions about the project that's proposed? Hearing none. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm on the phone, so I wasn't able to use Teams and the hand raising.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, what is your name?
Oh, hi, my name's Genevieve Sheehan.
Okay.
I wanted to just also make a comment about the affordable housing that's proposed for this project and such a low quantity of affordable housing. I'd actually emailed a comment already to the Planning Commission when I reviewed the report, but I didn't know if it was received. Do they reply to those emails, or do you just presume it's been received?
So the email won't necessarily be replied to immediately if it was submitted as a comment for the EIR scoping process. But it would
Okay.
be responded to as part of the preparation of the EIR. If you submitted the comment otherwise, not as a scoping meeting comment, but just as a general comment, then city staff would be replying to it.
Okay, yeah, I followed the process that they had said in the Dylan's weekly email about it for submitting it to that planning email, the one that you mentioned earlier on the call.
Okay.
Great. Okay, so I also just have a question about process. I understand you're just doing comment collection tonight, but then you had mentioned that there's future steps where this project will get reviewed, I guess, and we can, I guess, have feedback from both the Planning Commission and City Council. Is that correct?
Yeah, there'll be a couple of opportunities for additional public engagement. The applicant and the city are likely to be hosting other community-based meetings where the merits of the project will be discussed. The process under the California Environmental Quality Act, when the draft EIR is released for public review, there'll be 45 days of public review. And then opportunities for public engagement as part of the Planning Commission hearing, as well as the City Council hearing.
Okay. Okay, great. And will those be announced by the city, right? Like through their normal channels, we'll be announcing when those things are happening.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Peter, I'm not sure if you have your hand raised again or if it's just left over from the prior.
Left over.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Okay, don't see any other comments. So we'll just give it a minute. If anyone else has any other comments, just unmute your microphone and we'll take those comments.
Hi.
I've also put, oh, hi, just 1 second.
Hi,
I've
yes,
also
this
put
is
back,
Jamie again. Sure.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
I did want to clarify, you did ask me about if the trucks stop at those areas. They're actually all the trucks that drive to Old Town to make their deliveries.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify that.
And they use Primrose, that's what you're saying?
They use Primrose because on Myrtle, there's a lot of, foot traffic and whatnot. So they use Primrose primarily. And then they make their way around. I'm not sure if it's Lemon or which way they turn to make their deliveries onto Myrtle and also Vaughn's.
Okay.
So I just wanted to clarify because he did ask me about where they stop, and I don't think I answered that part.
No, you didn't. So thanks for speaking up again. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So I do have the contact information back up on the screen. Again, we're treating all comments received this evening as written comments, and they'll be equally responded to, in addition to any comments that are emailed in or mailed into the city. If you are planning on emailing or mailing in any comments to the city, the deadline is tomorrow. So as long as they're sent by the end of the day tomorrow or postmarked tomorrow, they will be considered as official comments on the notice of preparation for the EIR.
And Tracy, if I could just offer a couple of comments from the city on. Again, thank you to everyone for participating, and the comments have all been, I thought John and I were talking about, they've all been very salient and I think great in helping us to guide the project. I want to clarify that we're still very, very early in the process We don't even have an application. So all of this information is going to be helpful in us to finalizing the application, working with the applicant. So even though there were a few comments that weren't specifically environmental, they're very helpful in helping us to guide the application as it moves forward. And specifically, some of the comments regarding affordable units, again, not an environmental concern, but certainly a concern about the project. So again, we appreciate those comments. LID and the stormwater and all of those are all part of the things that we'll be looking at, providing conditions, looking at the parking. The impact to Old Town is certainly a big concern of the city and of the staff. And part of the environmental review looks at cultural resources, so that will be included. And then again, we will respond if we've received a comment. We will send you an email. We'll respond back by email that it was received. If we get something in the mail, we'll respond back. Make sure that you know that your comment was received. And there's going to be plenty of additional time to comment. So even if we get the comment on next week or next month, these are still comments we want to hear from you. We want to, we can still, again, build it into the process. It's just not timed specifically with the notice of preparation. But again, all of these comments are, again, terrific, and they're very helpful to creating the best project and the best information for the decision makers to use in finally determining the status of the application. So those are just some comments that I want to follow up on. But again, I think it's nice when people participate and care about their community. I think that's what makes Monrovia very special. So those are my comments.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question about your comments?
I'm sorry, about what?
Hi, this is Genevieve Sheehan. I just wanted to ask a question about what you just said. So it sounded like you were saying that the questions around affordable housing are not part of the EIR, but when I read the EIR and the documents provided, it appeared that affordable housing is part of the population and housing bullet. Is that not correct?
Well, I think I'm not the CEQA expert, so I would refer to the CEQA expert, but it's an impact of the project on housing. But Tracy, I'll let you expand on that.
Yeah, so the 17 affordable units, that's what's proposed by the applicant as part of the project. So that will be analyzed, throughout the environmental impact report. In the population and housing section, that will be acknowledged, but the population and housing section is more focused on impacts to the environment. So like, would the project displace housing or displace people, for example, which this project would not, because there's no housing currently on the site. But the 17 units will be acknowledged throughout the documentation.
All right, thank you for clarifying.
You're welcome. Okay, well, that concludes the scoping meeting. Again, we thank you so much for your time this evening and participating in the process. And just watch normal city channels for additional public notices on other opportunities to participate when those opportunities become available. Again, if you would like to submit public comment in a written form, the email address and the mailing address are on the screen, and we will leave that up for the next couple of minutes if you'd like to jot it down. So thank you very, very much again.